Huge trade announcement. Jets safety Jamal Adams finally getting what he wants as the Seattle Seahawks are trading a pair of first-rounders, one from 2021 and another one from 2022, along with an additional third-round pick and safety Bradley McDougald in a haul that will net them Jamal Adams and a fourth-round pick. This trade is crazy, but not unexpected. Maybe the team, but not the trade itself. Jamal Adams has been pioneering his way through this offseason in an attempt to get out of what I would consider a horrible Jets organization. Now, before we get into player comparison, I want to talk about the first-round picks. They're going to be late-round picks, as the Seattle Seahawks, they really aren't going to lose that many games. I don't think that this trade is going to make them, that much more of a contender per se, but I don't think that this trade negatively affects them or will negatively affect them in the future. These picks are going to be picks that are probably going to come after pick 16. So, from what I've been looking at recently, and if you go back yourself and look at the players that get picked after pick 16 to the end of the first round, you really won't find that many future All-Pros, Hall of Famers, or even players that continue to be on that team or had success on that team. In my opinion, or at least from what I've seen, more often than not, those picks turn out to be busts or non-factors for their drafted teams. So, do I think that the Seahawks gave up a lot for Jamal Adams? Maybe a couple first-round picks, a decent safety, and a third-round pick is a lot for a future. I mean, he's an All-Pro already, so it wouldn't be hard to say maybe he's a future Hall of Famer. That we don't really know yet, and we won't know till the rest of his career. But yeah, I don't think that these picks are really going to be all that much themselves, anyways. So. Good on both teams for getting, good on the Seahawks for getting the player they want, and good on the Jets for at least getting a sizable return. Now I kind of want to go on the player analysis between Jamal Adams and Bradley McDougald. Jamal Adams, phenomenal talent. But last year alone, played 13 games, had 75 tackles, 14 of them assisted tackles, with 6.5 sacks, which I would consider a pretty high number considering he's a safety and instead of like a D lineman, D tackle, so on and so forth, linebacker. But he had one pick. And again, these are all in 13 games. So, pretty decent season. But then you look at Bradley McDougald's season. He had 70 tackles, so a little bit less. 18 of them assisted, so those are a little bit more than Jamal Adams. He only had half a sack, but he had 2 picks. Now, I'm not saying Bradley McDougald's as good as Jamal Adams. He's not. But in terms of productivity, at least last season, I don't know. I mean, I'd take the 6.5 sacks. But you can't say that they were that far off. Again, if you really count those sacks as being a huge difference, then sure. Maybe that's what you separate Bradley McDougald and Jamal Adams. But everything else, pretty comparable. The only difference is Jamal Adams is 24 years old and has a long career ahead of him, while Bradley McDougald is 29, and who knows how long he's going to stay in the league. So specifically for the Seahawks, as I told you before, the Jets got some late-round picks, a third-round pick, and McDougald, at least he'll be a decent replacement for a year or so until they find their next replacement. They can use those picks to do whatever. But for the Seahawks, at least last year, their defense was not very good, or at least as good as we might think. Where were they in terms of yards per game? They were 26th. What about points per game? 22nd. They allowed 4.9 yards a carry, which was 28th in the league, and 22 rushing touchdowns, which ranked 30th in the league. So the Seahawks really needed some defensive help. Now, do I think Jamal Adams will help enough to make up for all that other stuff? Probably not. Especially right now, they still haven't brought back Clowney or signed him to anything, and Clowney might walk and go somewhere else. So who's to say how this trade's really going to help them right now, at least defensively? But I guess time will tell. Good on both teams. Jets got a lot in return. Seahawks got a star-studded player. I guess we'll have to wait next season and really see how this trade will help them out. That's all I got.